Okay, here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dhanavad Pranam. I think the microphone is off. It was on, but right now it got switched off suddenly.
Jana Ranjana.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shishi Mara Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shishi Mara Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Dr. Glenn, I am happy to see you. You know what the proper level is for Vijay. I think we may be a little loud still, but you know what it is. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh, another lady. Haribol. Please, you come over here. Oh, God. All right, give me a second here. Oh boy, Krishna space. Okay, forgive me. There's a lot of BBT stuff going on. Okay, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the second day of June 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service, page 511, at the bottom, text 3 and 4. And we'll just chant text 3, and I'll read the other one myself. Okay. Ye Tvaksharam Anirdeshyam Avyaktam payupasate ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Glenn. Ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam. Madhavendra, you want to chant? Ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Kash. Ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Chris. Ye tvakshadam nirdeshyam avyaktam payupasate sarvatra gamachintyam cha kutastam achalam dhruvam. Anyone, any ladies want to try? Okay. I'll chant the next verse. Sanniyam yendriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te praptavanti mameva sarvabhuta hiterataha. Word by words. Yea, those who, to but aksharam, that which is beyond the perception of the senses, anirdeshyam, indefinite, avyaktam, unmanifested, payupasate, completely engage in worshipping, sarvatra gam, all-pervading, achintyam, inconceivable, cha, also, kutastam, unchanging, achalam, immovable, dhruvam, fixed, sanniyamya, controlling, indriya gramam, all the senses, sarvatra, everywhere, samabuddhayaha, equally disposed, te, they, prapnuvanti, achieve, mam, me, eva, certainly, sarva bhuta hite, for the welfare of all living entities, rataha, engaged. Translation. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons, engaged in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. Purport. Those who do not directly worship the Supreme Godhead, Krishna, but who attempt to achieve the same goal by an indirect process, also ultimately achieve the same goal, Sri Krishna. Quote, after many births, the man of wisdom seeks refuge in me, knowing that Vasudeva is all. Close quote. When a person comes to full knowledge after many births, he surrenders unto Lord Krishna. If one approaches the Godhead by the method mentioned in this verse, he has to control the senses, render service to everyone, and engage in the welfare of all beings. It is inferred that one has to approach Lord Krishna, otherwise there is no perfect realization. Often there is much penance involved before one fully surrenders unto him. In order to perceive the supersoul within the individual soul, one has to cease the sensual activities of seeing, hearing, tasting, working, etc. Then one comes to understand that the Supreme Soul is present everywhere. Realizing this, one envies no living entity. He sees no difference between man and animal because he sees soul only, not the outer covering. But for the common man, this method of impersonal realization is very difficult. Om jnana timurandasya jnanandana shalakya chakshur unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and to all members of Sri Parampara. So, context is everything. It's always important to see the context of each verse. So the first two verses, as you may recall, Arjuna asked, what should we say, point blank, which are considered to be more perfect, those who are always properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? And Krishna answered as explicitly as it could possibly be. The Supreme Personality said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith are considered by me to be most perfect. So there's the critical question for those who are seeking perfection, self-realization. Should I follow an impersonal path or should I follow the personal path of bhakti? And Krishna says, as plain as can be, I consider those most perfect to be those who are has fixed their mind on me, who are always linked to me in bhakti and worshipping me, and have great and transcendental faith. So that's the answer. But that doesn't mean that all others are disqualified. It means that these are the best. Yukta Tama means those are the best. But then the next two verses he describes, well, what happens to the impersonalists? Well, here's the answer. They're worshipping the unmanifested. Now it's interesting that this word worship is used because this broadens our usual concept of worship. Of course, we know that kind of Aborigine tribes and everything, you may worship a tree or a big stone. But the basic idea is that you have reverence. You think there are special powers in the worship object or person. And that by your glorification and service and maybe surrender, these are all, in the broader sense, the practices of worship, you'll make a connection with that thing or entity, let's put it that way, and there'll be some benefit flowing to you from that. Now, if you just contemplate or think a few minutes or seconds about what goes on, like in politics, mundane politics, one can say it's a perverted form of worship, but it's definitely the kind of worship. You often give your hard-earned money, you give your attention, you give your adulation. You may travel a long distance in order to see the person, and express your glorification, whatever. Unfortunately, what you're worshiping cannot really give you the ultimate good. In bhakti yoga, or just say in human life, one should be concerned with the ultimate good, Shreya, the Nikshreyasa. Arjuna, when the whole first chapter, he's torn, right? I mean, everything's going fine. And he's got Krishna on the chariot. The whole army is here. He said, let's go between the no man's land, and where there's no soldiers. There's millions of soldiers over there. There's millions of soldiers over there. The elephants, the whole thing, everything's about to start. So I want to see who's fighting. And so he goes across, and suddenly he's blown away because it's not just some strange army. It's not an army of strangers. He's got his cousins over there, his relatives. He's got his grandfather. Bhima took the role of grandfather when Pandu died untimely and helped raise the boys. There was a lot of love and devotion there. Plus, he's got his teacher. In other words, now he's torn because it's not just some impersonal army of strangers. These are all people who he loves and respects. And I always say the most amazing part of it is that he says, on the other side are the sons of Dhritarashtra, who had made themselves his archenemy. Although Arjuna says, I can't imagine living without them. What is that? They tried to kill him in so many ways, burn them up, But Arjuna had forgiven him all that. He still sees the blood relationship, they're all Kurus, as part of it. So there he says, I can't fight, And he sits down on the chariot and drops his bow, which is like critical for a Kshatriya. You don't do that, right? And so then the whole, and then the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna takes the role of a regular charioteer And he says, get up. How does this impotence come upon you? He doesn't come at him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what the charioteer is supposed to do, is to buck up the fighter, and get up and fight. Give up this weakness of heart, petty weakness. And Arjuna then complains, no, I can't. He has a series of verses where, it's impossible for me to imagine. And then he has a critical verse. And that's why I call this whole scene to mind, because he uses that word, Shreya. So he says, Karpanya dosho pahata subhava. Now, each word is so meaningful, Karpanya means like kripana, miserly. He knows that this is not what a Kshatriya does. This is disgraceful for him. He's one of the greatest Kshatriya in the world. He's conquered so many enemies, Maharata. And but now I'm feeling, this miserly weakness has come upon me. Dosha, it's a fault. And upataha bhava, this is dosho pahata swabhava. My swabhava, my natural inherent nature is to be a fighter. He was trained for that. He has all the facilities, but it's been stolen away. Instead of fighting, he's sitting on the chariot, his bow's on the ground. It's been taken away by this miserly weakness. So he's very depressed. So karpanya dosho bhata swabhava pritchami tvam dharma samuda cheta. Another key phrase, dharma samuda cheta. In the Vedic culture, which is after all the ultimate human culture, Aryan culture, dharma is of paramount importance. Is what I'm doing now dharmic, or is it adharmic? Understanding that each path, those two contrasting paths, will lead to very different destinations. If you practice dharma, even the materialistic dharma of being doing according to the rules, according to the karma kanda section, all of the rituals that are necessary, then you pave your way for a better next life, either on this planet or even in the heavenly planets. So that in that respect, dharma is very important. But the Bhagavatam, which is the Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, right? So it deals with dharma. The first verse tells you what the object of the whole thing is, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The second verse begins with the word dharma. Dharma projitakaitavo tra. Here in this Bhagavatam, and we have to understand that the Bhagavatam sets the tone for all that we read. All of this commentary, the Prabhupada is giving it's all based on the Bhagavad philosophy. The 6 Sandarbhas, which are philosophical treatises written by Jiva Goswami, the most voluminous, how would I say, he wrote the most works of all the Goswamis in terms of volume. And that foundation of the philosophy, which is called these 6 or Shat Sandarbhas, philosophical treatises, they're all based on Bhagavatam. The first Sandarbha proves that the Bhagavatam is our ultimate evidence for what to do and what not to do in life in order to get the greatest result. We need that because we're in darkness. We don't know. We're going to follow our senses or some other imperfect person, blind leading the blind. You're in complete ignorance. So we need that source of knowledge that Prabhupada is called aparusheya, which means superhuman. And that's what we're encouraged. This is what we're reading here. This is Krishna himself speaking. But even that's not good enough because it can be distorted. Krishna is speaking and it's explained and given by his pure devotee. And so it's a transparent, Prabhupada called it via media, transparent medium without distortion. He's giving it as it is. And most important for us, let's face it, is it's in English. Otherwise, we can have all this Sanskrit, not even the English, just the Sanskrit letters. Would that help us? Not really. We need the mercies, someone translate it and explain it in such a way we can actually understand it and get faith that this is a path. There's still so many mysteries, and there always will be. But at least we can be confident, transcendental faith. Remember, you talked about that great and transcendental faith. So this, so Arjuna, the second verse talks about dharma, but not any other dharma. It's very, very strong language. Dharma projita kaita voltra. There's so many kaitava dharmas. In other words, distortion of dharmas that pretend to be dharmas come on, but they're really cheating religions. And the basic thing it is that anything that's materially motivated is cheating you of your birthright as a spirit soul who belong back in the spiritual world, not try to enjoy in some heavenly planet or on this planet or anything like that. That's just prolonging the agony. That's a fool's errand, to try to be happy and secure on the material platform. Where is there any security? I got this verse taught to me. I don't think you were here. No, you were here. You remember Mahavishnu Maharaj? Dharani Dars. Nobody calls him that. What do they call him? Dharani Dar. His guru, his wife's guru, is Mahavishnu Maharaj. Right? Very nice. Yeah. So we had a nice relationship when he was here. He was actually a brahmachari. Although he was elderly, he was a disciple of Shivaram Swami, not a disciple of Prabhupada. But he was so advanced, sannyasi at a certain point, he wanted to give initiation. Subhadra's his disciple also. I think she was his first year. Anyway, so way back in the early 90s, I'm in Vrindavan, waiting on the prasadam line, and there's Mahavishnu Maharaj with me, I said, oh, would you like to hear a nice shloka? That's what I usually do, And he said, yes, and the only person who ever did is he pulls out a pad and a pen. He wants to not only hear it, but he wants to remember it, I forget what sloka I gave him, something from Krishna Karnamasan. So he gave me one back, which I learned and I put into a poem. So it's from the Padma Purana. I looked it up. It is from the Padma Purana. Usually, oftentimes if you don't know where it's from, you'll say Padma Purana, because it's so large that nobody's going to check it anyway. But this really is from the Padma Purana. So he said, De heshti mangsa rudire bimatam chajasra, jaya sutari cha satama matam vimuncha, pushyani cham jagadidam chanabongatishtam, vairagya raga rasako bhava bhakti nishtam. So roughly, that means I couldn't get every word. It says, don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership for all you think you own. At every moment, see that your world totters on destruction. Remember, padam padam vividam, we've been discussing it. At every moment, see that your world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. Now, the words, really wonderful phrase there is vairagya raga. Get attached to detachment. Vairagya raga. Rasiko bhava. And this way become a rasika, being able to taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness, which it completely obliterates the taste for the material world, which keeps us bound to this world of suffering, birth, and death. I've been reviewing I'm always kind of review these shlokas, otherwise they get holes in them. It's very frustrating. I got the first two lines, and I can't remember the third line, and I got to look at it. So this is a verse at the beginning of, I hope I don't make it too far afield here. Near the beginning of a book by Rupa Goswami called the Leela Chanda. Leela Chanda is a summary of Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And mostly it's all kinds of Chanda verses, meaning very special metric verses that you don't usually find. Like, I'll give you a sample. One is like, Outdan nika mahasankulitam bakashakada rastanasayana lambaka kuchadasa trishna vidichitarodana chanchata patakuta shakada binodan. That one verse describes Krishna knocking down the cart demon. He's under the cart and he knocks it down. Anyway, I won't go too far into that. But in the beginning, he has several verses that introduce the whole thing. And so one of them, and just the first line, is he talks about the river of Katha, of Krishna Katha. You see, it's so sweet. So what is the result of the river? It's so many metaphors. It's beautiful. Mulo kata vidayini bhavatador krishnanya trishnakshayat. We had a question. Was it last night? I think, yeah, from Dhanavari. I may have confused it, but we had a question about should we or should we not aspire for liberation? Because we're, nadanang nasundarim. Lord Chaitanya says, I don't even care for liberation. I just want unmotivated devotion to you. So what about that? So the answer is yes, we can aspire for liberation. That can be one of our motivations to bring us into the chanting of the holy name and the whole process of bhakti. But if you really take part in it and you embrace it, then after some time that motivation kind of wanes, and your other motivation is that you want to serve Krishna. You want to taste the nectar of Krishna consciousness and serve Krishna for his pleasure like that. So that's what this verse is about. The first line, Mulo kata vidayini bhavataro. Bhavataro means the tree of birth and death. You can remember in the beginning of the 15th chapter, We have that upside down banyan tree in the Bhagavad Gita. This whole material world is we're all entangled in it. We go from branch to branch, and we never get, we have to cut it at its root with who knows, remember? What is it? Yeah, the sword, actually. Come on, get it right. The sword of detachment. Yeah, you got it right. Actually, it makes so more sense. Axe would cut down a tree. But anyway, so what this verse says is that this powerful river, a sweet river of Krishna Katha, describing especially Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, that completely uproots. Imagine a river moving very swiftly, and on the bank you have this tree that's grown up right on the bank. If the river is really going fast, it may get wider a little bit. It'll just uproot that tree. So how does it uproot the tree? Krishnanya Trishnakshayat. It's a wonderful phrase. Krishna Anya Trishna Chayat. It destroys the thirst, the desire for anything other but Krishna, anything else but Krishna. That's really what we need. That's called vairagya. It cuts the knots, the sword of detachment, or the sword of remembrance. Yadanudyasina yukta. That's mentioned in the second chapter of Bhagavatam. So that's what all this chanting is about. The more we chant attentively, in the right mood, in the right attitude, regularly, the name is not different from Krishna. Then you get attached to Krishna. You get attached to the holy name, and you get detached from all this other stuff that's keeping you bound here. So that's what real dharma is. The Kaitava dharma is supposed to fake dharma. That's what Kaitava means, cheating. That keeps you bound to this world, maybe in a more refined way. You have a aspiration to go to the heavenly planets, and suppose you make it. Okay, now I can really enjoy. It's the same deal, and eventually you fall down here. Chine punye marjalogam vishanti. Krishna says in the 9th chapter. After your punya credit, how you get up is run out. Your credit card is on empty. Sorry, Mr. Smith. Do you have another card? No. Then down you go. Back, you didn't get anywhere. Gatagatam, going and coming and going. So real dharma is explained in the next chapter, beginning of the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, that which awakens your unmotivated love for Krishna, uninterrupted. Ahoituki and apradiyata. Savai pungsang paro dharma yato bhakti hokshaje. Ahoituki apradiyata yatma supersedity. And that can really give full satisfaction for the soul. Because you're regaining your eternal position of eternal bliss and happiness in relation to serving Krishna. So that's what we're looking for. And Arjuna said, I've lost it, and I don't know, I'm completely confused. Yak shreyaksyan nishtitam bruhitam me. He uses that word shreya. Yak shreyaksyan nishtitam bruhitam shishtestehim shadimantam bhavan. Please, you tell me for certain. Now I'm not going to approach you as a friend. We're not getting anywhere. I'm arguing with you, you're telling me this. But now you're my guru. I'm surrendering to you. Please tell me the truth. What's what? And immediately Krishna chastises him. He said, Ashochanam vashochatram pragyavaram shabhasase. You're speaking learned words like a pundit, but you're lamenting for what's not lamentable, the physical body. I mean, when heaven forbid, we practice ahimsa. It appears several times. We try to do as little harm as possible. That's the default position. But sometimes, as in the Mahabharata war, for the higher good, for the good of the world, and dharma, again, dharma in the person of Yudhishthira, it's necessary to use violence. And Krishna makes the point, nobody dies, nobody's dying. You should be, Bhishma, everyone's an old man, you're going to give them new bodies. And because they're killed on the battlefield in front of me, he doesn't say this outright, go back to God, basically. And Bhishma Dev certainly went back to God. Anyway, so bringing it back to where we are here in the 12th chapter, Krishna gives in 2 verses now, we've come to the conclusion. Bhakti is what you want. But not everybody is ready for it. So what about the impersonalists? So he doesn't cast them out. He says those who are attached to he gives a whole list of, lies beyond the perception, all pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, immovable. They control the senses. Hold on, 1 second, Dhanabhai. Okay. Equally exposed to everyone. They engage in the welfare of all. See, this is the key phrase. That's why he puts it at the end. At last achieve me. Now, they last achieve me not by doing what they're doing, but graduating from it to bhakti. At last they come to bhakti. But this welfare for all is important, because the tendency is, after all, the motivation is, I want liberation. I want to merge into the Brahma Jyoti and become free of birth, old age, disease, and death. There's nothing in there that I want to work very hard for everyone's benefit and take them to the Brahma Jyoti. You know? It's basically a personal motivation. And what does Prahlad say? He said, Prayena Deva Munayo Svava Mukti Kama. He said, this is a form of lust. My own mukti. I'm lusty for my own desire. And for that end, Prayena Deva Maunam Charanti. They don't speak. You know, Maunam means silence, right? Maunam Charanti Vijane, without people. Wherever there's no people, that's where they want to go so they won't get distracted. Napararta Nishta. Not at all determined to help others. This is what the general thing is. It's very selfish, you know. And Krishna said, then you'll never come to me. You have to be engaged in the welfare for all. You see. So that's, you know, it keeps open the heart a little bit if you're open to it. But they have to eventually come. And in the next verse, he'll say, well, it's just very troublesome. Why to take the trouble? Klesho adhikadatashtesha. Danavari, I'm ready.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. You said Krishna Anya. Can you repeat Krishna Anya Trishya?
Oh yeah, it's a great verse.
Trishya Kriyas.
Well, let me go through it. Okay.
Sorry.
Mula utkata vidhayani. Mula is the root, right? Utkata means pulling out the root of the tree of birth and death. This rapidly flowing nectar river of Krishna Katha, specifically dealing with Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. Mulo Kata Vidayani performs the uprooting of the tree of birth and death on this river. How? Krishna, Anya, Trishna, Chayat. Chayat means destroy. Trishna means thirst for everything else but Krishna. In other words, you got to be addicted to something, right? And mostly you're addicted to a whole variety of sense gratifications, birth after birth. And those addictions bring you back. Read the 15th chapter. So we need to get free of that attachment to matter and transfer it to Krishna. This verse has been referred to recently in the classes by Ramananda Roy, very appropriate. He just had his disappearance day. And in the course of his answering the questions of Lord Chaitanya, wonderful 8th chapter, Madhya Leela, he gives this verse, which he wrote himself. Krishna bhakti rasabhavitamati kriyatam yadikutopi labhyate tatta laulyam abhimulyam ekalam janmakoti sukatayana labhyate. Now this first line, Prabhupada said, this is the source of that phrase, Krishna consciousness. Sound familiar? Krishna consciousness? That Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati, the mind absorbed in the bhakti rasa in relation to Krishna. That's what Krishna consciousness ultimately means. So that's the source of it. So that's what we're looking for. We're trying to attain that. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam yadikatopi labhyate. You should buy it if you can find it in the market, wherever you can, But what's the price? Laulyam apimulyam ekalam. Probably when he recites this verse, I just heard him on a lecture, he says, Tatra laulyam apimulyam ekalam. The only mulyam, price, is your laulyam, is your greed for it. Laulyam literally means greed. In other words, you have to transfer your addictions of this world to your strong desire to be Krishna conscious. That's really, it's a purification of the heart. And you may have many, many births, thousands of births of pious activity. You won't get the laulyam and you won't get the Krishna bhakti. Material piety doesn't cut it. That's just keeps you in, maybe in the human platform, but that's not enough. So how to get that greed? Now I was just sharing with Michael, who didn't, was it Michael this morning? I think I shared it. Yeah, I told him. There's a verse where the devotee prays to become a miser. Now misers are like personified greed, right? So we try to get rid of that. The 3 gates leading to hell? What does it say? Tribadam nadakasedam dvaram nasan kama krodha liktata lobhas. Lobha is greed. That's you have to give those up, So why do we want to become greedy? So that's explained. This is a prayer to become a miser. So here's the Sanskrit. He says, Vichayani vichayani vichinchani punakpanaha kripanasat dhananiva tunnamani bhavantunaha. Compelled. Now just, you know what avaricious means? It means greedy. I needed 4 syllables instead of 1, so that's why I used it. Compelled to constantly collect and count his precious hoard, the miser contemplates his wealth with avaricious aims. Please bless me to become a miser who's compelled, O Lord, to constantly collect and count and contemplate your names. So the miser has to be there, the greed has to be there, but it has to be for Krishna. So that the whole process of bhakti is training the heart and purifying the consciousness so that you can't forget Krishna at any moment. And that desire to be with Krishna in separation is the highest level, to not be able to, and wanting, and finally he's there, Hare Krishna, and then he leaves. It seems like the greatest suffering, but it's actually the greatest enjoyment. All right.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhu. Very nice. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on to 5. This is a famous verse. Yeah, Madhavendra. We need to activate that mic. Where is the mic? Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm on the other end of this, and I can't hear the questions.
I was just wondering, is Brahmavadi synonymous with impersonalism? Like, do they have the same?
There are different varieties of impersonalism. And the Brahmavadis, there's good hope for them if they come in touch with a devotee or the Kumaras were Brahmavadis, so is Shukadev. Mayavadi they're in much more difficult straits because they're embracing this Sharirika Bhashya commentary on Vedanta Sutra, and they deride, the worship of Krishna. I mean, I had personal experience. Tell this story again. Back in 71, I was searching. A lot of people, I'd read the Autobiography of Yogi, I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there's a whole syllabus that you read. And I didn't know what to do, I was going here and there. So I'm in New York, so the Vedanta Society, let's call it that, they were mission, their mission. I'm not going to name the names anymore. So I got involved with them, and they were mostly involved with this, Vedanta means impersonalism, Mayavad. But there was also Yatama Tatapat, the idea that whatever path you want, that's your path, So they had a bhakti section. They had some bhakti books, which I bought, because had visited the temple before, but I was really involved with them. So anyway, I'm trying to chant, I chant 2 rounds a day or something. And I said, do you have a quiet place where I can chant? He said, yeah. There's a room near the, up near the attic, So I went up, and I found a room, and it was quiet there. And there was a little murti of Krishna, just Krishna, no Radha. They're probably, available by the thousands in India. I don't know if they're made of ivory, probably plastic now, white, and with the 3-fold bending form with the flute. I said, this is great. There's Krishna, I was chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And then after a little while, I thought I'd go a little closer and see this murti. And there was this much dust all around it. They weren't taking care of that at all, And the theory, the idea is what, this bhakti is for the emotional masses. I mean, the guy told me that. The real thing is gyan. Gyan, knowledge, right? That's their thing. And, I didn't know anything, so I was listening to that. But I saw directly how they deride not only the worshippers, but even the personal form. That's for the less intelligent. Completely crazy. In other words, they're offenders. And Lord Chaitanya said, Mayavadi Bhasha Shunlai Hoi Sarvanash. You listen to or you read and study. I had bought the book. There was one of the uptown gurus, Nikalananda Swami. He had written an English commentary, had translated it, the Shurika Bhashya, probably edited. And I was buying this. I didn't know I bought this and that. But by Krishna's grace, I never actually read the book. So I was saved. I was reading the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I said, this is interesting. So that the Mayavadis are pretty well far gone. Now Lord Chaitanya was so powerful, he was able turned Prakashananda Saraswati and his thousands of followers into bhaktas. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who then, they became very powerful devotees. But and for Shukadev Goswami, he heard, he didn't want to get entangled. He stayed in the womb. His poor mother. Was it 16 years? And finally, Krishna had to come all the way from Dwarka and explain. He's in the womb when he's talking to him. He said, "Don't worry. You won't get entangled. So he's born and he walks off. He takes sannyas right away. Did he ever wear clothes? I don't think he ever wore clothes. And he's walking away into the forest, and his father, Vyasadeva, wants to speak the Bhagavatam to him. Does it seem like that in the first canto? Only the trees echoed, so he goes off. And he's in the forest. How to give him the Bhagavatam? So Vyasadeva sent out some disciples to chant some nectar verses to try to attract his mind, And he did. And one of the verses was, oh God, I always forget this verse.
Prabhu, is that Barahapidam or Ahobakiyam?
Ahobakiyam, thank you. Ahobakiyam, I forget the first word. Ahobakiyam kalakalakutam jigangsayapya yedapya sadvi lebegatim dardutitam katonyo kambai dayalam sharanam vajema. Thank you, Danabai. So this is a verse that it ends with the words, how could I possibly find someone more merciful to take shelter of? And the example is Putana. Putana, in my mind, was the arch evil demoness of all the ones they went to. Why? Her specialty was killing babies and drinking their blood. Is there anything worse than that? So anyway, she gets the assignment to go kill Krishna. So she dresses herself up. She's shape changing. These yogis. So her shape. I mean, it's either a big snake or a big bird or something, In this case, it's a beautiful woman. And she smeared this terrible poison on her breast, So she walks in, and because she's so beautiful, we showed in the others, they think, oh, she's a goddess of fortune come to see Krishna, She walks right in, and she looks at him, and she has an intimation. Yeah, he's pretty powerful, I don't know. But she was fortunate not to act on that. It's like the demons, like Dhenukasura. He's killed, right, the big donkey demon, Balaram kills him, throws him, into the, and the other demons, they're dumb, they're so angry it covers their intelligence, and they run to get, revenge, and they're also killed. So similarly, Putana saw that he was really powerful, but she had her assignment, whatever. So she goes, he gives her breast, and he sucks out everything. And he sucks out her life. She gives a real form, 8 miles long, knocks down. Women have miscarriages. It's a whole scene there. So, how did I go off into Putana? Huh? Oh, the mercy. Yes, sorry. I'm getting senile. So, what happened to Putana? She's the worst, but she suckled him, So Krishna said, okay, she wanted to kill me, but and I killed her body, but he purified her. And the soul went back to Goloka Vrindavan to take up a role as a wet nurse in Yashoda's home for eternity, for eternal. She gets to suckle Krishna. How could there be anyone more merciful? I mean, if someone tries to kill you, it's not that you invite him home for dinner, and give him a garland. I mean, that's so therefore, so Shukadev heard that verse, and if I heard this once. One of the other verses he heard was about Krishna entering the forest. This beautiful verse at the beginning of chapter 21, the Venu Gita. It goes like this. The gopis are singing, Barhapidam natavadavapu karnayo karnikaram Bibran vasa kakanaka kapisham vajayanting chamalam Randran veno hardada sudeya pudayan gopa vrindaya Vrindaranyam Sopadamanam Prabhishan Gita Kirti. So this verse describes, I put it into a poem, it says, with lovely peacock plume upon his head, and fragrant flower placed upon each ear, he enters Braja's wood with graceful tread, a handsome dancing actor without peer. His golden yellow raiment brightly glows. His splendid garland reaches to his knees, and from his luscious lips the nectar flows and fills his flute with charming melodies. As Krishna thus begins his blissful day, with cowherd friends who sing his glories sweet, he beautifies Vrindavan's forest way with fine impressions of his lotus feet. So Shukadev heard that one, of course in Sanskrit, and those verses and others attracted him to come back and hear the Bhagavatam. And then there's this key verse that describes this whole experience that he had. And this is the difference between the Mayavadis and the Brahmavadis. Brahmavadis prefer the impersonal, but they're not offenders. So this is a famous verse. Everyone should know this verse. Atma ramas chamuniyo niyagranta apyurukrame kovancha hoitakim bhaktim ittam bhuta guno hari. Lord Chaitanya explained this in like 61 ways to Sanatana Goswami and 25 ways to, it's a big verse. But the basic meaning exactly describes this scene of Shukadev. And that Atma Ramas Chamuna, even the great learned transcendentalists who are Atma Rama, means they're self-satisfied, they're in touch with the soul, and they're drinking the nectar of Brahmananda. Let's put it there. Nirgranta, no knots. Here you get the knots. They're not at all attached to anything of this world. I mean, even clothes he's not wearing. Api, key word, api, arukrame. Arukrame is a word for Krishna. Means the great actor, the very powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kurvanti ahoitukim bhaktim. Here you have this phrase that comes up again and again. Ahoituki bhakti. They perform unmotivated, selfless, loving devotional service to Krishna, Arukrama. Why? Ittam bhuta guno hari. Being attracted, being enthralled by the wonderful qualities of Krishna, which are manifest in his pastime. So that's understood. So these great Brahmavadis, and what did happen with the four Kumaras? They went all the way to Vaikuntha. They got very angry at Jai and Vijay because they wouldn't let him in. And that in itself showed that they're not yet bhaktas. They get furious at them, curse them to become demons, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, But then Narayan comes to the gate. They're at the gate. They couldn't get in. So he heard the commotion, and he comes walking there on his lotus feet. And the fragrance of the tulsi manjaris, we call them manjaris, the flowers, mixed with the natural flavor of his lotus feet, wafted into the nostrils of these four Kumaras. And it completely changed them. It describes as a verse, which I won't chant, which I probably forgot most of, that they were transformed just by that fragrance. And then they said, oh, what have we done? We cursed your devotees, we're going to go into hell. And then Narayan had to encourage, no, this was all my plan, But he wanted to fight, and there's nobody to fight with in Vaikuntha, so sometimes his devotees have to take the role of demons. Anyway, the whole went out. And they became transformed. They have their own sampradaya. They're, great devotees. So, but the Mayavadis, they need special dispensation to meet Lord Chaitanya, much more demonic. All right, I need more time for this class. Let's do one more.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
You said Brahmavadis are not offender. Does it mean that they believe in deity worship, but they don't offend the deity worship?
I'd like to ask you to take off your mask, but I think you're probably not wearing one. Can someone translate? What did he say?
Let me repeat the question.
No, that won't help.
So,
did someone else? You understood? Or you say it in the mic. I'm sorry, my ears and your accent don't match.
I don't want to misquote you. I don't want to misquote you, Tapas Prabhu, but from what I understand, you're asking since Brahmavadis aren't offenders, do they engage in or at least believe in or support deity worship?
I'm not going to guess, but the idea is that it's that they prefer the Brahmananda. That's not that they deny the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They prefer Brahmananda. Whereas the Mayavadis pretty much say that, Krishna exists, but he's subordinate to Brahman. He's a manifestation of Brahman. God, takes on a material body and all this stuff. So the Brahmavadis, they're just Atma Rama. They're already feeling all the bliss of Brahmananda. But right at the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami is comparing the different kinds of happiness. He says the ocean of all the material happiness that you can experience is like a drop of water in the ocean of Brahmananda. But Brahmananda is like a drop of water in the ocean of Premananda. So, but they're not. That's the idea. As far as they're respecting deity worship, I really don't want to guess about that. But they're not. But the Mayavadis, they lead a lot more. I mean, my experience with the Mayavadis, I not only this direct thing with the mission in New York, but in Vrindavan. They like to hang out in Vrindavan sometimes. I remember walking along, and the bridge boss would say, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe, everybody, it's all Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And here was this passel of Mayavadis. You could tell they had the tilak going this way, And they're looking this way. They didn't look that blissful, They know that's where the action is, but they really can't taste it. They can't get it because they got a big blockage. They don't have any faith. That's what. Remember, that's the thing. Being endowed with Shraddhaya Parayope Tattva, great and transcendental faith. That's really the bottom line. When you're too much involved with all the logic chopping and you get involved, with the Nyaya, then the faith in Krishna doesn't really take root. Yeah. The ones that
Dravida Prabhu?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Vijay Krishna Haribol. Go ahead, Vijay.
Prabhu, my obeisance, you said yesterday that I should keep my question related to yesterday for today.
Oh. What's the question?
But if you do not have the time, I can understand.
Yeah, you have to interrupt earlier. And
yes, of course.
Don't
no
take no
problem.
for an answer, okay? So I'll have to put it off. Write it down. Or send me an email. Dravida 108.
No. May I ask it next Monday?
Yeah, sure. But I'll tell you
very much.
But you can send me the question, and I'll be ready for it. It'll be a lot quicker. I can do research. Anyway,
yes, but
go ahead.
Where should I send the question?
To me at Dravida 108 at Gmail.
Okay. Oh, Tapas Prabhu just gave me on the chat box.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
the
right,
address.
good. Everything's good. All right, it's getting a little late. We didn't get a chance to do 5. I'm sorry. But it's all about klesha anyway, which is misery. It's describing the Mayavadis. But we have time for one more verse. Is that okay? Sweet or sour? Sweet? Let's end with sweet. It's supposed to end with something sweet. Okay, this is a sweet verse about the holy name. Madhura madhura meta mangalam mangalanam sakala nigamavalli satpalam chitswarupam sakadabi padigitam shaddaya helaya va bhagavadanadamatram tadiyet Krishna nama. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of all the Vedic writings, it's the transcendental fruit, the very form of spirit, unalloyed and absolute. When uttered even once with faith, or uttered once with none, from birth and death it truly will deliver anyone. And in the end it brings pure love for Krishna, life's true aim. So cast away all doubt and chant Shri Krishna's holy name. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Bol Nanabai. By the way, it's not possible to chant once. Chanting, if you look up in the dictionary, means repeating. So yeah. Kind of can put a crimp in you. Yeah, I chanted one name. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You uttered it. No, you never heard it before? Maruram Marur. Yeah, there's another one of sweet. Yeah, there's another that starts the same idea. From Brahma's realm atop the sky down in the lowly grass.